Welcome. Today we'll be discussing the three phases of narcissistic abuse. Remember to like, share, and comment on this video below. If it's been helpful to you, please browse the description box for more information and subscribe. Let's jump right in. So there are three stages of narcissistic abuse that we all must be vitally aware of in order to detect whether we're in a narcissistically abusive relationship, what's going on, why do we feel this way, how to get out of it, what stage or phase you may be in, and how to identify that phase. So the first phase is the honeymoon phase. Now, most relationships entertain the honeymoon phase. The difference is that with the narcissistic honeymoon phase, it's like a regular relationship, a normal, healthy relationship on steroids. It's also referred to as the idealizing phase or the love bombing phase. This phase normally occurs during the time that you meet the narcissist initially. It also happens other times within the cycle of abuse with the narcissist, but now we're speaking about the initial meeting of the narcissist. You know, the narcissist sort of scopes you out, whether it's online, whether it's in person. Something about you attracted the narcissist. It could just be that you're attractive physically, but it could also be they may know some other things about you personally, maybe through a friend, or they may be a coworker, a fellow classmate, but someone in your physical proximity who may have had the opportunity to observe you. They have seen certain characteristics about you that they deem or find attractive, that drew them to you, into your presence, and they may even admit to what those qualities were initially. But there's something that you have that they want. They may see you as someone headed towards success or already successful in their eyes. You know, that can be you're a homeowner. That can be you drive your own car. That can be that you have a great, grand, and loving family. That can be that you're independent. That can be that you're a mom, or that you're new in town, or it can be any number of things. That's just a few that I've listed to kind of get us on track, on the same page, so to speak. So once they have assessed that and they're now in your realm, they try to butter you up a lot, a whole lot. They shower you with compliments. They want to spend exuberant amount of time with you, or excessive time with you, whether it's through texting, on the phone, calling you, whether in person, hanging out with you, etc., spending time with you. They are really in there. They treat you like royalty practically. They make you feel like, hey, I really connect with this person. It's not a stretch that they give you the impression that they could be your soulmate. If you believe in, such connections like twin flames and soulmates, that's how they would make you feel. They appear to get along well with your family, with your friends. They are masters at mirroring. So that's sort of like they are observing your cues, whether it's your verbal cues, things you say, how you say things, nonverbal cues, just how you present yourself physically, such as how you dress, how you look around when you interact, or how you listen if you're distracted, how you place your hands under your chin, just little subtle cues they look for. They look to see your reaction. They may make a comment. This is how they learn more about you. And it's very subtle. So you think you're having a normal interaction with someone. You've just blasted their world away because, they've been looking for you all their life, and you've been looking for them. So you think, but what you don't realize is that you have just met yourself, technically, because the narcissist in this phase comes to you with a blank slate. It's sort of like someone wearing a costume, a full body costume that just is blank, is white. you're reflecting off of their blank slate, or off of, let's say they're a mirror or a glass. You're reflecting off of them. So you're kind of falling in love with yourself, because all they're doing is watching you and kind of copying off of what you're doing. Well, if you say you enjoy tennis, hey, they have an interest in tennis too. They may even be able to back it up with some false story about, some tennis tournament they participated in years ago. Like, that's the issue with the narcissist. The honeymoon phase, they have mastered it. They use it to maneuver forward with you, and this is how they're gaining information from you, and they would know how to forge ahead, or whether or not to forge ahead with you, and if they choose to forge ahead, how they go about doing that. You think you found your soulmate. That's how you're supposed to feel after the honeymoon phase of narcissistic abuse. This phase gradually fades into an area of mild confusion. The narcissists, once they feel like they have had you secured within their web of deception, because they probably have sensed that you fell for their facade, and that, you're believing their lies and the stories they tell, that they're probably pulled out of who knows where, because most of the time the stories are made up and things they say is fake. So they begin to put you down. And then you notice that gradually the little things that were once, cute and quirky about you, that they said they liked or appreciated, now becomes an annoyance to the narcissist. And it actually becomes downright unbearable to them. This is where the devaluation phase comes in. Suddenly, your coffee that you've made for the narcissist previously, perhaps on multiple occasions, or even for years and decades sometimes, doesn't taste the same, doesn't give them that spark, needs something, tastes like it's missing something, which is odd, right? Something else you do around the house, or something else that you guys once enjoyed publicly, it's just not as satisfying to the narcissist anymore. They complain about this and they don't like that. They nitpick and they put down, the way you would do this and the way you would do that. It's just not as satisfying. And you're a bit confused, because you don't see how something that once was so appealing to the narcissist and fulfilling suddenly isn't. Even when it comes to boils all the way down to, like, your favorite, let's say, music artist or TV show, hobby, board, or even a board game you might have played once in the honeymoon phase. It's boring to the narcissist. He thinks it's corny. He thinks this person isn't funny. They even start to put down family members and friends. They find issues, that with your brother, they begin to question this about a family member and question that about a friend. But it definitely increases within the devaluation phase, which is the second phase. Ironically, all these put downs and all these things that the narcissist has gradually become disgruntled with is sprinkled with heapings of sweet, positive things. Like, you might get a gift for your birthday or for some other occasion, or the narcissist might take you on a dinner date that you haven't done in a long time, because that all started to fade out with the honeymoon phase. You go on a family vacation together or a trip. There are these intermittent things that the narcissists do that kind of throw you off a bit. So when you think that you're not making the narcissist happy in your mind, they kind of throw in this sweet thing that makes you feel like, oh, okay, we're okay. There's nothing wrong. So you would now notice the back and forth, you feeling confused, you beginning to experience cognitive dissonance, sort of like a torn feeling between what's really going on. It's good, it's bad. You're kind of down the middle. You don't know if you should go left or right. You don't know why things are bitter and then sweet. You're confused at this time. It's becoming more and more confusing. The thing is that these occasional nice gestures leave you distracted as to what is really going on below the surface or what is really simmering underneath it all. The status of your connection with the narcissist continue to deteriorate even further into critical lows and critical levels to depths that you're not even aware of at this time. And let me just say this, even in a non-romantic relationship or connection with a narcissist, let's say with a narcissistic mother or father or other family member, there's phases in that relationship where the devaluation begins as well. You may not have been aware when it began because it may have begun, let's say when your puberty began or during your teenage years when you notice, you're being nitpicked, you're being bullied by a family member or your mother or father, and you kind of find yourself trying to please them, trying to keep them happy, trying to avoid their contempt, trying to avoid being punished for the slightest thing, being stonewalled or receiving silent treatment, etc. So it happens in all narcissistic relationships. So within this romantic relationship, you're moving from the second phase of devaluation and you're moving into a phase known as the discard phase, or the phase where the narcissist is completely showing who they really are and is at the brink of abandoning you emotionally, physically, financially, otherwise. So you begin to compensate or spring into action, voicing your dissatisfaction with the narcissist's unsavory attitude and unfamiliar disposition in the relationship. All of a sudden, you may be feeling disillusioned and discouraged, but the narc doesn't seem to let up. They become even more challenging, uncooperative, and accusatory, even paranoid, and seemingly threatened. Your connection with the narcissist appears to be unresolvable and damaging, very damaging. So, you choose to either take a break or finally leave the narcissist, but it's not so easy. You may begin to stand up to the narcissist, challenge them, and only to experience the narcissistic rage or a narcissistic violent response or outburst. They may throw you out of the house. They may throw your belongings out of where you reside with the narcissist. They may even put your children out that you may have with the narcissist or any other family member that may be connected to you. There's no limit with the narcissist. They may become physical with you, physically violent, and they will display extreme violence, damaging property and their surroundings or your personal property, insulting you, and just not returning your calls, not returning your text messages, stonewalling you, and completely giving you the silent treatment, even in dire situations or in crisis situations. These being the three stages of narcissistic abuse. There are other things going on within this abuse cycle. One such as, after the narcissist does all of this, they would want to get you back. They may seemingly regret what they have done, whether it's, damaging your personal property, hurting you physically, or your child or family member. They may begin to call family and friends, even coworkers, anyone else to try to get you back, to try to talk to you. These are commonly known as flying monkeys. We'll discuss in another video. And this tactic is referred to as hoovering, or trying to get you back into the cycle of abuse with the narcissist. But if you ever return to the narcissist, the nightmare I just described above will begin all over again, except with some extra toppings of abuse that will have escalated with each return. By leaving the narcissist perceives this as you hurting them, as you injuring them, as you hating or envying them. And it's all insanity, actually. It's also another word called projection. So this is actually how the narcissist feels deep inside towards you and what they're actually trying to do to you, hurt you and hate you, but then they're mirroring it back to you and reflecting it back. So it's like a projection on a wall. You know, the light bounces off the wall and comes backwards in return, and that's how they emotionally protect themselves from having to feel remorse or grieve or be hurt in any way, which is extremely scary and something that they strongly avoid. So, in the eyes of someone who's not aware of the abuse, or someone who the narcissist may move on to in a new relationship, you will be reported as the major problem in the relationship, or the insane ex that he had to or she had to get away from, or the one who's having the difficulty letting go of the narcissist, while the narcissist is, not reporting and hiding the fact of all the damaging, destructive, even life-threatening things they have inflicted upon you and maybe even your children or other family members. The funny thing is that it's so ironic and hypocritical, which is the narcissist's middle name, but while they're talking negatively about you to others, smearing your name, trying to ruin your reputation, something also referred to as the smear campaign, while they're doing all of this, they're secretly actually desiring to get you back. They secretly want to have you back. As I mentioned before, they use a tactic called hoovering to do this and suck you back into the relationship. But what you have to realize is that you're just one out of many string of relationships that the narcissist has discarded and abandoned and longing to or desiring to get back. Narcissists recycle former partners, past relationships, hoping to get a sparkle of supply and someone from their past, whether recent or distant past, back capture them back into a relationship with the narcissist whenever or wherever possible. Escaping a narcissistic abusive relationship, in a nutshell, is a second chance at life. Sure, it will require some recovery time, and this does vary from person to person, and circumstances are unique and outcomes vary. But support during your recovery time is vital. So, for more information and to connect with me more on this subject, browse the description box below. That's all for now. Thanks for being here. Till next time, take care of yourselves. Bye bye.